Hi, good to see you again. Welcome to Block 1, Constructing, Measuring, and Using Geometric Notation, Lesson 14. I'll share my screen. So, in your previous lesson, you learned how to construct different triangles. They were side, side, side triangles, angle, side, angle triangles, and side, angle, side triangles. In today's lesson, you're going to learn how to construct more complex polygons using the same techniques and tools that you used in your previous lesson. So make sure you have your pencil, your ruler, your compass, your protractor, and your rubber or eraser so that whenever you make a mistake, you can rub it off and start all over again. Remember to like the videos, share the video with those you think can benefit, subscribe to the channel, and click on the notification bell so that when new videos are released, you'll be notified. By doing so, you help us grow our mission to help children around the world have access to high quality education, maths education, regardless of their economic circumstance. Thank you. I would like you to pause the video and do these retrieval practice questions in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the retrieval practice questions, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So here you were asked how many different triangles can be drawn with interior angles of 90 degrees, 70 degrees, and 20 degrees. Of course, you can draw an infinite number of similar triangles. If you think about it, the angles could be much bigger or much smaller infinitely. Next, you were asked what is the length of line segment AB? Well, the length is 8.5 centimeter. Notice that the measurement started from 1 up till 9.5. So if we want to get the true length of the line segment, we'll have to find the difference between 9.5 and 1. Or we measure from 0, which gives us 8.5 as well. Next, what conditions must be met for a polygon to be regular? I'm sure you haven't forgotten about this. All interior angles and side lengths or edge lengths must be equal. Before we start to draw our polygons, which will be mostly quadrilaterals and a six-sided polygon, I've given the secret away, but start thinking about what a six-sided polygon is. We'll practice drawing an angle. So just to refresh your memory of how to draw an angle. So you draw a line segment, you position a protractor, making sure the crosshair lines up with the end of the line where you want to draw your angle on. And then you measure using either the inside scale or the outside scale the angle you want to measure. In this case, we'll be using our inside scale because 0 lines up, the 0 inside scale lines up with our line. So we mark a 25-degree mark using the protractor, and then we use our ruler to join the end of the line and draw it through that point that we marked for 25 degrees. Okay, I want you to pause the video and see whether you'll be able to try to draw this, to construct this shape that you see here. All right. Assuming you've paused the video and you've given it a try, here is what or how it should be done. First, you put a mark on your paper. Next, you use your ruler to draw a straight line that is 8 centimeters in length. Next, you put your protractor at the left end of the line because that is where we want to mark our 90-degree mark or angle. And you place a mark on top of the protractor where your 90-degree mark is or point is. Next, you use a ruler and draw a 5 centimeter line. Next, you place your protractor at that point, lining up the 0 mark from the end of the line that you just drew and measure 105 degrees. Next, you use your ruler to join the end of the 5 centimeter line segment through that point for 105 degrees that you marked, and you draw a line that must be 5 centimeter. The reason we have done that is because this hatch mark show that this line 5 centimeter must be equal to that line. The next thing you do is you close your shape with the final line, which is this line here. And of course, do not forget that you have to mark the respective dimensions and angles of the shape. Let's have a look at another example. Here, Whitney says that I can't make an accurate drawing of this polygon because I don't know any of the interior angles. Do you agree with Whitney? Of course, let's explore this and see whether we agree with Whitney or not. Well, if we have this triangle and we choose to draw the diagonal first, we'll simply have two triangles that are separated or that have been drawn together. To draw the first one, after we have drawn a diagonal of 7.3 centimeter, we can open our compass to 3.8 centimeter and place our compass here and draw an arc above that line over there. Next, we'll open our compass to be 4.5 centimeter. We'll place the compass here and draw an arc which will intersect with the first arc that we drew. Now, the point where they meet, we can simply join that point to the end of the line there and to the end of the line there. Next, using this same diagonal, we can open our compass to be 5 centimeter and draw an arc over here. Next, we open our compass to be 9 centimeter and draw an arc over there. So we would see that the arcs will intercept, and then we'll have a point where they intercept through which we can join this end of the line there and the other one there. So we disagree with Whitney. We could still draw this quadrilateral without knowing the angles. It's now time for you to pause the video. Make sure you have your paper, your pencil, your ruler, your compass that has the pencil in it set already to start drawing or practicing, your protractor, and of course your rubber, so that if you make a mistake, you can rub off the mistake and practice getting this right. So I'm going to make a change to the construction tool I'll be using to demonstrate this. I'll demonstrate some of them, and then some of them I'll explain so that the video won't be too long. So let's head over to our construction tool. Okay. So we want to construct the first quadrilateral. So first, we're going to move our ruler to be vertical. we want 4 centimeter. Then we want a 90-degree mark at that point. So I'm going to place the crosshair of the protractor there on that mark. Now, I want the mark to be there. In fact, I can use the pencil to draw from there. That's not what I want. To draw from there. And then I would mark. Oh, that's not going to work. So let's mark the point there. And then we'll use our ruler to measure 7 centimeter. Oh, I've cleared that. Sorry about that. So 4 centimeter. So use your ruler, draw your 4 centimeter line. Place your crosshair of your protractor at the end of the line and mark the point where you want to draw. Bring your ruler. So with construction, you have to practice, practice, practice. That's the only way you get better at this. So you position it there. And we want 7 centimeters. So I'm going to position it at 2. I'll still be able to measure 7 centimeter, but I'll make sure I get it up to 9, because to be able to measure from 2 to get 7 centimeter, then you stop at 9. Okay. So that's our 7 centimeter mark. Next, we'll take our protractor, and then we want to measure 110 degrees at this point of the line. So we'll take our protractor, we'll line it up with that end of the line, and then we want to measure 110 degrees. So take note that the outside scale is lined up. Okay, the outside scale, 0 of the outside scale is lined up with our line. So we'll measure 110 degrees, which is here. Okay, right here. Now, we're going to use our ruler and draw through that point a length of 2.5 centimeter. So we want 2.5 centimeter. So we'll line it up. About there. All right. So we're starting at 1 and doing my measuring from 1 for convenience. So it means to get 2.5, I'm going to draw from 1 to 3.5. Yeah. So 3.5. I'll stop about there. Okay. So that's my 2.5 centimeter length. Next thing, I'll use a line segment to join that point. So now you can label your points. You can label the diagram. So that will be 110. So that will be 110. So 110 degrees. I'm trying to write with a mouse, which is a bit challenging. 2.5. Okay, and that is 7 centimeter, if you remember. And that is 4 centimeter. Okay, so that is how you go about constructing a quadrilateral. And of course, that is the 90-degree point. The next one we want to construct is the one that has two angles that are you're required to draw two angles in them. So I'm going to do question 1B. So the first one is we'll draw a line that is slightly that lies on its side, not exactly horizontal, 6 centimeter. So you take your ruler and you draw a 6 centimeter line. So 1 6 centimeter. Next, we want to draw 95 degrees on this line. 95 degrees. So we move our protractor and make sure it lines up with this line. So place it here. So we want to draw 95 degrees. So 95 degrees should be about here. We'll put our mark there. We may not have enough. Let's see whether we can move this line over. Just a minute. Let's move it over here. So that will have sufficient space. So let's do it like that. So 1 6 centimeter. All right. Next, we want to draw 95 degrees. So place the crosshair of your protractor to line up with the end of the line. And then you want 95 degrees. Put your mark there. Somewhere there. Sorry. Deleted the 6 centimeter line by mistake. Okay, let's draw 95 degrees. Put a 95-degree mark there. Now, if you look at your diagram for question 1B, you will see that you're required to draw a 4.5 centimeter line that goes through that 95 degree that you just marked. So again, we'll move our ruler to line up with that line properly. So because I'm using an online construction tool, you'll find that you could be even quicker than I am in drawing this. Okay. So this is for demonstration purposes only. All right. So you move. Okay. And then you want to draw 4.5 centimeter. So my protractor mark is at 7. So to get 4.5, I'm going to get up to 11.5. Okay. Because 7 plus 4.5 is 11.5. So that is where my mark should end. Now, looking at your diagram, you would see that you're required to measure an angle of 120 degrees on this line, okay, from that end of the line. So you move your protractor, make sure the crosshair lines up with the end of that line. The zero mark must line up. And then see that the zero mark is from here. So we want 120 degrees, which will be somewhere here. So we're using the inside scale. So we'll mark 120 degrees there. Now see that there is a hatch mark here. So which means this line that we draw has to be 4.5 centimeter when we line it up. Okay. So what we do is we take a ruler, we position it, here. So we'll position it to line up with the end of the line and that mark. And then we want 4.5 centimeters. So because it has to be equal to the other mark, to the other point where we have the hatch mark. So I'm measuring from 2, which means from 2 to 4.5, plus 4.5, that would be 6.5. So I'm going to draw this line and then stop at 6.5, which will give me exactly 4.5 centimeter. And then I would make sure I put a hatch mark here. So I have completed the shape. So I'll use my line segment to just complete it, which is for you would be a ruler. So you use a ruler and a pencil and just close your shape. And then, of course, you won't forget to mark the dimensions on your shape. Okay. So this is 6 centimeter. This is 120 degrees. This is 95 degrees. This is 4.5 centimeter. And of course, it's the same with this side because you have the hatch mark, which shows that these side lengths are equal. Okay, so let's head back to our teaching slide. So far, I have demonstrated how you would construct these quadrilaterals. So these are more complex polygons, different from triangles that you constructed. But you can see that the process is the same. Stage by stage, you draw the side lengths, and then you construct the angles using your protractor. For this one, so I don't want the video to be too long, so I'm just going to demonstrate or talk about the steps that you would take to do this. Okay, so let's talk about the steps that you would use to do this, so that the video won't be too long. Okay, so just a minute. So the steps you would use to do this are quite straightforward. So for this one, the first thing you would do is you would draw using your ruler and pencil, you would draw the 3 centimeter line. The next thing you would do is you would position your protractor here and draw a 40-degree angle. So you mark your 40-degree angle, and then you draw a line as long as you can right there. Now, you want to be able to mark, okay? You want to be able to draw a 140-degree angle here. So you come here again and you mark a 140-degree angle. And then the next thing you do is you close your shape. Okay. Now remember, when you finish, you can see that this looks like, it's a parallelogram. So you would have this length to be equal to that length. Okay. Next, you were asked for question 3. Huan is making the outline of a logo. You're required to use a ruler and a pair of compass to make an accurate construction of Yuan's logo. So pause the video, take a pen, take a pencil and a compass. You should be able to do this using a pencil, a compass, and a ruler. So make sure your compass has a pencil in it, of course, and your ruler. So pause the video and practice this. Assuming you've paused the video and you're practicing, you've done it, here is what you would get. So let's discuss it. So first, you take your ruler and you draw a horizontal line that is 3 centimeter. Next, you open your compass to be 2 centimeter, place it at the end of this point and mark a 2 centimeter arc. Next, open your compass to be 3.5 centimeter, place the compass at this end of the line and mark the 3.5 centimeter arc. So you will find that by doing that, you use where they intersect, you use a ruler to close the shape. And that would give you the upper part of the logo. So 2 centimeter and 3.5 centimeter. So using this same 3 centimeter line, you would open your compass to be 2.5 centimeter. You place the compass at this end of the line and mark the arc here. You open your compass to be 3.5 centimeter and you mark the arc here. So you would see that the arcs will intersect. You take your ruler and join that end of that line, a straight edge, mine is curved, and you join that point as well. When you finish, you would see that you'll be able to form the logo. Okay. The next thing we're going to learn in the second part of this lesson is how to make an accurate drawing of a hexagon with edges that are 5 centimeter in length. So we know that a hexagon has 6 sides. So step 1, open your compass to be 5 centimeter. Mark a point on your paper, any point, and draw a circle. The next thing is you mark any point on your circle, doesn't matter. Just mark any point on your circle. And then position your compass at that point and mark arcs. The first arc, position the compass there and mark another arc. Position the compass in the second arc you draw and mark another arc. Position the compass and mark another arc. Position the compass and mark another arc. Now, the next thing you do is you use a ruler and pencil to join the first point that you marked and all the other arcs that you drew. So you draw straight lines connecting them. And you would see that you have just formed a hexagon. Something interesting you want to know is that what would you notice if you were to split this hexagon into triangles? You would notice something interesting about the sum of the angles in a triangle and the total sum of the interior angles of the hexagon. Well, I'll leave you for that. I'll leave you to investigate that. Well, if you are asked to use the markings on the diagram to list the properties of this parallelogram, what would you come up with? Have a think. Well, here are some of the properties. First, we would say, well, it has two pairs of parallel edges or parallel sides. So this is the pair of parallel sides. You can see the markings here, and these are parallel sides as well. It also has opposite edges that are equal in length. So you see these hatch marks here. They show that they are equal in length, these sides, and these hatch marks show that these sides are equal in length. The next thing you notice is opposite angles are equal. So these angles are equal, and you can see the hatch marks there. And these angles are equal. You can see the hatch marks there. So if that side is 70 degrees, so this side has to be 70. How do we find these? Well, we know that the sum of the interior angles in a quadrilateral is 360 degrees. So if we add them, 70 and 70 will get 140 degrees. So if we subtract 140 degrees from 360 degrees, we would form this equation. So if we were to write it out, we'll form this equation. And by now, you know how to form equations like this and how to solve them. So the equation would be x plus 70 plus 70 equal to 360. So we'll have 2x plus 140 equal to 360. 2x is equal to 220, which means to get x, you divide by 2. So by now, you know how to solve equations. If not, you can refer to our previous lesson videos. So each of these angles will be 110 degrees. It's now time for us to practice the rest of the questions using our construction tools. So here you were asked to draw an angle, a triangle that satisfies the information. So pause the video, take your pencil, your equipment, and your paper and practice doing this. Well, assuming you've paused the video and you've done this, let's discuss it. So I'll just discuss how you would do this. I don't want the video to be too long, so I'm not going to demonstrate this. So the first thing you do is you draw a line AB. So you mark a point, you name it A, and you draw a line AB. You mark that point B. You make sure this line is 8 centimeter. Now take note that the middle letter tells you where the angle will be located. So we have angle BAC. So it means here we'll have to measure 50 degrees on this side. So place the crosshair of your protractor here and measure 50 degrees. So 50 degrees could be something about there. All right. So you measure, you put a mark there. Next, you've been told that BC should be 6.5 centimeter. So remember that you've already put your mark there. Okay. So for you to have BC to be 6.5 centimeter, you would open your compass to be 6.5 centimeter and then do an arc. From here, position your compass and then draw an arc that is 6.5 centimeters. So you do an arc like that. Okay. So your arc will probably be like that. Now, you want your line, you're going to draw a line to pass through that 50-degree mark that you made. So you draw the line as long as you want. Okay? That line is going to intersect with the arc. Now you have a point through which you can close the triangle from where this arc intersects with the line that you drew. And then that will close our triangle. Okay? Don't forget to put the dimensions. So this is BA. So this is your point C. BC is 6.5 centimeter. And this is 50 degrees. Okay? All right. Next, you were asked to construct a regular hexagon inside the circle. List all the steps that you took. So we're going to head over to our construction tool. All right, so that we can demonstrate this. So remember, you've not been told what the dimension of what the radius of the circle will be. So we can use exactly the same 5 centimeter like that we used when we did the example. So let's head over to our construction tool. To demonstrate this. So all right, let's clear the screen. So we want our compass. So we'll take a compass. So you should be doing this on paper so that you get used to this. So you move your compass to the 0 mark. Let's use 5 centimeter. Or let's use 5. 5 should be okay. Use 5 centimeter or lock that so that it doesn't move. I'll move the ruler out of the way. I don't need that. I don't think we need the ruler anymore. So let's move that to the middle. You hold your compass and you draw your circle. Okay. Next, you mark any points on your circle. Move your compass. Move your compass to that point there, and let's mark another point. Just a minute. Let's mark another point so that it's easier for us to draw. So we can mark that point. We'll move our compass there. It's a bit challenging moving the compass to that point, isn't it? Okay. Let's assume we've marked our point there. So let me remove the that mark. So let's mark where we actually have the compass. We'll still get it right. All right. So let's just mark that. So we'll mark an arc. We'll move our compass to that point. We'll mark an arc. Let's mark an arc. We'll move our compass there. Let's check that that arc is correct. Yeah, that arc is fine. So let's draw the arc. Okay. Let's draw another arc here. So if you were doing this on paper, you would be finished before me by now, because this is using a construction tool online. This is why it's taking a while. So you draw your arc. I think we need one more. And you draw your arc. All right. Now we have enough to use, we can just use line segments to connect them. Okay. And then you'll form your hexagon. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So you see, that's our hexagon. So this is how you would go about constructing your hexagon. So let's head back to our teaching slide. So during that demonstration, you would have seen what we did, and then you can see the steps that we took. All right. So I'll let you write that steps and make sure you get used to doing that by practicing. So I'll discuss this one, what you would do. Here you will ask to write a set of instructions for how to construct a parallelogram. Practice drawing your own parallelogram and construct this parallelogram. Okay, so pause the video and have a practice of this. Assuming you've paused the video and you've done this, so here is what you should get. So to do this, first you would, so let's talk about the instructions. So to do this, first step one. Step one, you will draw your 6 centimeter line. Step two, you would put your protractor at the left end of the 6 centimeter line and measure 53 degrees. Put a mark at the point where you measured 53 degrees. Now take a ruler and make sure the ruler lines up with the left end of the line with the mark of the 53 degrees, and then draw a 4 centimeter line. Next, you would make sure that you since this is 53 degrees, you know that the opposite angles, so you know that the opposite angles will be equal. So this will be 53 degrees. So what you would do is you would, from this point here, which is 4 centimeter, you would make sure that you place the ruler on top of that 4 centimeter line. Make sure it's lying parallel to the 6 centimeter line and draw a 6 centimeter line, because this side will be equal to that side. Okay, there's a parallelogram. And then next, you simply use your ruler to close the shade. Okay, so practice that and you should be okay with that. And that brings us to the end of our lesson. So in this lesson, you have learned how to use the same techniques that you used in constructing triangles to construct these more complex polygons, which are quadrilaterals and hexagon. Until next time, take really good care of yourself, and bye-bye.